Superman's 5 biggest comic book story failures and why they matter. Even the most iconic superhero isn't immune to editorial missteps. Throughout his 80-plus year history, Superman has weathered numerous creative decisions that left fans scratching their heads or outright revolting. These narrative choices often fundamentally altered the character in ways that many readers felt betrayed his core essence. Let's examine 5 of the most controversial storytelling failures in Superman's comic book history and explore why they matter to his legacy. Revealing Superman's secret identity to the world. In 2019, writer Brian Michael Bendis made the shocking decision to have Superman publicly reveal his secret identity to the world. After decades of Clark Kent carefully protecting this vital secret, Bendis had Superman announce his dual identity during a press conference, eliminating one of the most foundational elements of the Superman mythos. Why it matters. This controversial storytelling choice effectively eliminated decades of storytelling potential. The dual identity had been central to Superman's character since 1938, creating the essential tension between his extraordinary abilities and his desire to live as a normal person. The reveal dismantled numerous supporting character dynamics, particularly at the Daily Planet, where colleagues suddenly had to reconcile that they had been deceived by Clark for years. Many fans and critics argued that Bendis fundamentally misunderstood what made Superman compelling, the relatable human struggle to balance his extraordinary responsibilities with his desire for normalcy. Despite editorial promises that the change would stick, many readers correctly predicted it would eventually be reversed, making the entire storyline feel like a temporary gimmick rather than meaningful character development. Jerel as Mr. Oz. In a twist that bewildered many fans, DC revealed that the mysterious villain Mr. Oz was actually Superman's father Jerel, who had somehow survived Krypton's destruction. The revered scientist who had sacrificed everything to save his son was reimagined as a delusioned, somewhat antagonistic figure who had been observing Superman from the shadows and harbored dark views about humanity's worthiness of his son's protection. Why it matters. This storyline fundamentally undermined one of the most poignant aspects of Superman's origin, the noble sacrifice of his parents. Jerel had always represented scientific rationality and selfless parental love, the foundation upon which Superman's moral code was built. Transforming him into a morally compromised character who survived Krypton's destruction via convoluted plot devices cheapened the emotional impact of Superman's origin story. The revelation also created logical inconsistencies with numerous prior storylines where Superman had encountered images or echoes of his father. Critics noted that this storyline seemed driven more by shock value than by any meaningful exploration of Superman's character, and ultimately the development was quietly abandoned in subsequent storylines, highlighting how disconnected it was from the core Superman mythology. Aging up Jon Kent. In one of the most criticised recent Superman storylines, Jonathan Kent, Superman and Lois Lane's young son, was abruptly aged from a child to a teenager. After being taken on a space adventure with his grandfather Jerel during the controversial Mr. Oz storyline, Jon returned only weeks later in Earth time, but several years older due to relativistic time dilation near a black hole. Why it matters. The decision abruptly ended what many readers considered one of the freshest and most compelling recent additions to Superman's mythology, his role as a father to a young child. The Super Sons dynamic between Jon and Damian Wayne, Batman's son, had developed a dedicated following, and stories exploring Superman's paternal side had added new dimensions to the character. By aging Jon up, DC eliminated years of potential storytelling about Superman raising a superpowered child and learning to be a father. The accelerated aging felt like an artificial attempt to push Jon into the Teen Titans demographic rather than organic character development. Many critics noted that the decision seemed driven by marketing considerations rather than storytelling possibilities, sacrificing a unique father-son dynamic that had rejuvenated Superman's character after years of uneven storytelling. Denouncing American citizenship. In 2011's Action Comics number 900, Superman declared that he would renounce his American citizenship, stating, "Truth, justice, and the American way, it's not enough anymore." While not necessarily a failure, this controversial storyline suggested Superman would work through the United Nations rather than unilaterally to avoid his actions being seen as expressions of US policy. Why it matters. This storyline created massive mainstream media controversy and alienated many longtime Superman fans who viewed his connection to American values as central to his character. While the writers intended to position Superman as a global hero transcending national boundaries, many readers saw it as a rejection of core aspects of the character's identity. The timing, during a period of heightened political tension, made the storyline feel unnecessarily divisive. Perhaps most tellingly, DC quickly backpedaled on this development, never substantially following through on this dramatic declaration in subsequent issues. The entire controversy exemplified the risks of using Superman to make contemporary political statements without fully considering the character's complex symbolic importance to diverse audiences. The fact that this storyline is remembered more for the controversy rather than for any meaningful character development is a real shame, because for many, Superman should be a hero who represents all of humanity rather than one particular country. Getting beaten by the Avengers after defeating Thor. In the highly anticipated JLA Avengers crossover from 2003 to 2004, fans were treated to various hero versus hero battles, including Superman defeating Thor in individual combat. However, later in the story, the combined might of the Avengers managed to overwhelm Superman, with Captain America in particular standing his ground against the Man of Steel. Why it matters. While this crossover was generally well received, many Superman fans felt this particular sequence betrayed the character's established power levels for the sake of preventing either publisher's heroes from appearing definitively superior. After establishing Superman could defeat Thor, Marvel's strongest Avenger, having him then be overwhelmed by ostensibly lesser threats like Captain America struck many readers as inconsistent and politically motivated. The sequence highlighted the inherent challenges in crossover events between competing publishers, where creative decisions often reflect corporate compromises rather than logical storytelling. This failure matters because it exemplifies how external publishing considerations sometimes override character consistencies and internal logic, even in otherwise celebrated storylines. The controversy continues to fuel debate about Superman's power levels relative to other comic book universes, demonstrating how such narrative choices can have lasting impacts on character perception. These narrative missteps matter because they reveal something crucial about Superman's enduring appeal. Despite being nearly invulnerable in the stories, the character himself is surprisingly vulnerable to editorial mishandling. Superman's longevity and iconic status don't make him immune to poor creative decisions. If anything, they make such failures more glaring and consequential. What ties these failures together is how they each betrayed some fundamental aspect of Superman's character that readers hold dear. His dual identity, his origin story, his family dynamics, his values, or his established capabilities. When creators fail to understand these core elements, even well-intentioned innovations can backfire. Yet Superman endures. The very fact that fans react so strongly to these perceived failures demonstrates how deeply people care about the character. Each controversial storyline has eventually been course-corrected, retconned, or reinterpreted, showing that while individual creative teams may occasionally stumble, Superman's fundamental appeal remains resilient. In the end, these storytelling failures matter because they help define, through negative example, what makes Superman work. By understanding what doesn't resonate with audiences, we gain clarity about what truly makes the Man of Steel soar, not just his powers, but his humanity, his values, and the delicate balance between godlike abilities that has kept him relevant for over 8 decades. I'm Steve Younis from SupermanHomepage.com.
Subscribe to our free Superman homepage newsletter and stay in the loop. Go to supermanhomepage.com/newsletter. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and click on the bell to ensure you don't miss out on any of our new videos.